How you doing today?
Good morning, Ms. Masters. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Well, I am here doing your second coaching feedback session, and I just want to say thank you for allowing me to continue to come in your classroom to kind of coach you and provide feedback. This helps me grow as an instruction leader and as a coach, and as well as hopefully the ultimate goal is to increase your teacher effectiveness and increase your student performance. So thank you, and I appreciate you for allowing me to come in anytime. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So, on the 31st, I came into your first period class. It was from 10:15 to 10:35, and you had 31 students. You were currently as far as working on C.98, which is explaining the relationship between pressure, volume, and temperature. And they also was learning how to apply the gas law, dealing with equations to calculate volume and pressure. Can you tell me a little bit as far as what was the students needed to learn by the end of the lesson?
That is, they have to see the value of pressure, whether it is in atmosphere or in kilopascal. Then they have to decide the value of R. That is gas constant. There they were finding little difficult, so I was just focusing more on that. And conversion of temperature, if it is in Celsius, they have to add 273 Kelvin to convert that to Kelvin. So sometimes students were, even if it is in Kelvin, they were adding 273. I said no, if it is in Kelvin, you don't need to add. If it is in Celsius or centigrade, then you have to add. So there, they were little lacking.
All right, thank you for sharing that. My next question is, do you think your students were successful in the lesson? Why
Yes.
or why not?
Yes.
Okay, so can you give me evidence?
80% of students, because they found it this formula little easier than the previous topic, which I taught them. That was little big sum. So when I started this small one, they said, "Teacher, this is so easy compared to the previous one." So they felt so happy and they were able to do it.
All right. Thank you for sharing. I know by the end of the week you're going to have all your exit ticket data in. So I'm looking forward to, I look back to kind of see how your students perform on this particular standard. So thank you for sharing. So I always like to start off with what went well that I observed in your class. And I do want to say, based on last week's coaching feedback session, we talked about implementing an actual a strategy for annotation, and we call it a paper partner strategies, to where students are able to have a structured way of annotating. So thank you for actually modeling that for your students and implementing that in class, because it was evident that as I walked around the room, students now have a strategy in solving those calculations. So I appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you.
And taking my feedback and running with it. I also want to praise you on your materials that the students had readily available for them in order for them to do the calculation. So, for example, they had their formula chart at their stations. They had calculators this time to where they could make sure their calculators is accurate. What else I observed? They had their paper partner strategies, right? Paper,
Yeah.
the format, so they could actually know the structure of doing the work. So, and also technology available. So the students actually had their Chromebooks. And I know you utilizing that because you want them to do their exit tickets and all the learning. So thank you for actually being prepared and making sure students have the tools that they need in order to be successful.
Thank you.
All right, so I do want to go into what were some challenges that you found as you were instructing and the students were working on the concept. What challenges did you face?
Challenges. That's the main thing, conversion. The other thing is some few students are with the earbuds, they when I tell them to remove the earbuds, they don't do that. So I just keep telling, that's the main thing, because they say, "Teacher, I'm listening to you, I'm hearing you, but how come?" Those students, they lack understanding. So once they remove those earbuds, they understand everything.
Okay, so let's just take away the cell phones, and we think about all your students. As you were walking around the room, what were challenges besides the cell phones for a few students? What were challenges in the concepts that you want them to learn as far as conversions?
Conversion, they have to find out what is given first. There they were a little lacking. So when it is in liters, they didn't know that it has to, that is the volume. Though I tell them several times, some students lack concentration, so they found little challenging over there. So I tell them that if it is in liters, see the units, then put them, those numbers under the volume, whatever it is. Pressure, it will be either in kilopascal or atmosphere. So by seeing those units, they have to identify what it is, volume or pressure or temperature. There they were lacking a little bit.
Okay, all right, thank you for sharing. I'm glad you was able to identify that. All right, so the next thing I would like you to do, early this week I shared what we call a coaching tool called Waterfall, and I wanted you to kind of briefly look over it. This is a tool that we use in order to coach teachers, in order to get them better instruction a lot quicker, because it gives us pretty much a framework of what to follow in order to increase teacher effectiveness, as well as eventually we know the results will increase student achievement. So what we do is take this, we call this the waterfall, okay? So if you didn't have a chance to look over it, that's fine. I'm just gonna give you a brief overview. So we have two sides. We have the culture side, which is the classroom environment, as far as what is that we're seeing from students, hearing from students, what is that they're doing, as well as teacher actions, right? The rigor focus on instruction, okay? The components of effective instruction. So what we do is when we walking in and we providing feedback, we observing, we're going down these components. So we go from top to bottom. So if we're generally seeing these things happening, then we move on to the next level. So for example, if we say that, hey, if I'm starting here, build a momentum. Give the students a simple challenge to complete a task. Okay, that was evident. Students were able to complete the work that was given or they was working on. So we know we can move down. So if there's something that the teacher is lacking or need improvement with, we stop, and that's the area where we focus on improving. Same thing for the rigor side as far as instruction. So they both go hand in hand, but what we do is try to find the part that gives the most high leverage, that you're gonna have most turnaround in increasing teacher effectiveness or student achievement, okay? So we work our way from top to bottom. You can look at culture, you look at rigor, or both. So I just kind of want to give you an idea. I'm kind of going to help you out on this particular waterfall. What I would like you to do is look at your waterfall, and we're going to focus on rigor, the right hand side. And I want you to go all the way down. And if you feel that you have these components, you keep going. You keep going. Okay? And then where you feel that you lacked in the lesson, you're going to stop and you're going to tell me where you feel that you did not have and that we'll work on. And I'm going to tell you where I feel that you fall. Yes, go ahead and do that. Just take a minute to figure out where you fall on the waterfall.
students speak before teacher.
Okay, so you're saying that you feel that you are at 6C?
Yeah.
Cold call?
Mhm.
Okay, so that says guided discourse, and then it says, C cold call, then,
Mhm.
for example, multiple students speak before teacher. Okay, so a guided discourse is simply where you pose a discussion question, and you have students to actually, in tables of discussion, right? And you have them to kind of share and collaborate their thoughts in order to solve a problem. They're getting feedback from each other, okay?
They come and write on the board, but they feel shy to explain. I'm
Okay.
trying to now encourage that way nowadays since last week.
Okay, all right, so let me tell you where I feel like you failed based on my observations, because I'm only going in what I observed at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so based on my observations, you fail under 9B.
9B.
Monitor the quality of student work. So let's go to 9B.
9B here.
It's called
Monitor the
systematic
student
monitoring. And if you go particularly into 9B, it says monitor the quality of student work. And when you go within more detail specific, it says 9B1, check answers against your exemplar success criteria. So the reason why I say that, well, before I say that, did you have a system monitoring quality of student work?
They were doing dual, so I didn't want to see that. Or else I would have gone through. If it is a worksheet, I would have done, but it's a dual, so I didn't want to do that.
Okay, so there where
And
we
we
have
went for
another growth area in that particular moment, what you just said. However, let me stick to my observations, okay? Because we want to just focus on the highest leverage. So when I went in, I observed you had 31 students. I did see students doing the DOL, okay? So the DOL is the exit ticket, and it's independent practice.
Yeah.
However, when I went into class, there was no independent practice from whole group. You had some discussions, you have some working independently. Most of the students had their paper for the strategy, but it wasn't clearly defined if it was exit ticket or if it was guided practice. However, when I went in, I'm kind of assuming it was independent practice because I did see all the learning on the screen. However, you were circulating the room and you was providing feedback. So therefore, my lens seen, okay, if you're providing feedback, you're monitoring their work. So that's why I feel like you failed there, right? So as far as cold calling, you wasn't at that moment, you wasn't there during the time I observed. So you fell under 9B,
Okay.
monitor the quality of student work, okay? So what were your systems of monitoring?
I go around the students and check whether they are doing it and what they are lacking. I just try to guide them and then explain. Sometimes students, at that moment when I question them, they tell me that they have not understood. So I just, personally, I explain them in their places. I just
Okay.
go.
All right, so now that brings us to, I would like for you to pull out your exemplar from the beginning of the week. And then also just grab a few of your student samples that you run.
Oh, you want yeah, this.
Yeah, just take out a few.
Yeah.
Take about, 2 or 3. And I would like for you to look at your exemplar and look at some student samples and kind of see what were some trends. Don't try to pick all high level students, but just kind of see if there's actually some trends that you see with your exemplar versus what they did.
They have not done everything. Not a few of them. They have, some of them have finished.
Okay?
They have not done here. It's incomplete work.
Okay, so I have this particular student started the annotation process. They know key information but fail to actually understand what the question is asking with focus. And then as for solve and justify, there's no calculation. So they were able to provide the formula, but no calculation. Okay, let me know, tell me about
Others, yeah, they are able
another
to.
sample.
Here, he did the solve, but he couldn't justify. Yes, that is, I've asked them to write why it is, why they have written that answer. So they have to justify whether it is in moles or that is number of moles is being asked. So I got the answer for this. I got some students doing that justification. Let me just check. I told them, they are training to do that. It's not written. Some students have written that beautifully, I didn't do my best. Not written that.
Okay, so I'm just gonna stop you right there. So, why is this important?
Because they are knowing what is actually, they are doing it. I told them first do it on the paper, then choose the answer there. So they are doing it here, they are working on it. Instead of blindly choosing A, B, C, D, now they are working on it. They know that they have to write what is given. They are now reading the questions. Previously, sometimes they just choose the answers without any thinking over. Now they are thinking over, they are writing it, working on the paper, then choosing the right answer.
Okay. All right. So, what I want you to kind of guide you into, you have your exemplar and you have the expectations of what the students need to be able to follow, at least be in the framework of it, right?
Yeah.
As you circulate in the room, you have your exemplar in hand with your thought process, and when you're walking around the room, you're able to provide that quick feedback when you're monitoring part of the student work so you can identify those gaps. So you strategically knowing exactly what is expected of the students to learn, and you can provide them feedback on the spot. You can also address misconceptions. So it's very important that you have that exemplar as you circle around the room to provide specific feedback to students and hold them accountable for follow through. So then you're able to catch those students that try to either not show their work or maybe don't necessarily know. So at this time, I am gonna just do a quick model, a quick practice, and then I want you to practice. I want you to kind of just think about what you noticed the teacher doing, which would be myself, and then what as far as student actions. So let's just assume students are working on their assignment. I am the teacher, and I'm going to pretty much show you what how to monitor the quality of student work, and I want you to kind of practice. All right, so I'm gonna have my exemplar in hand as I circulate the room. I already have my students grouped up, so I clearly see you had some form of pathway that you started from the beginning and worked your way around the room. So I'm just gonna focus on once you get to the student, what happens, what should happen. All right. All right, guys, at this time, I'm going to come around to make sure you have your focus for today. As far as you're doing calculations, I just want to just make sure you have your focus for today. And what does it entail? What is the question asking? All right, awesome job, Janet. Okay, we got, the focus is moles of gas and units of temperature. Okay. Okay, Sean, I need you to kind of add a little bit more information as far as key information. I see that you have numbers, but you don't necessarily have the form. All right, awesome. Keep up the good work. All right, quickly, what did you see me do? What did you see me
I
say?
just went with your, compared your exemplar with the students' work.
Okay.
And then check whether they are doing it right.
Okay. What did you hear me say?
Good work.
What else? So before I made my rounds, we called them laps, we'll get more in detail. I pretty much announced what I'm looking for, right? And then I go to the students. So I'm announcing what I'm looking for. So I wanna go back to your exemplar, and I wanna go back to the student samples that I made copies of. So you start off your paper partner strategies here on your exemplar for the math paper partner strategies, but the students did the science paper partner strategies. What is it that you're trying, which system you want to use?
Because both the science and math together, because they should know whether it is volume and the calculations. Calculations is dealing with the math, and the values and pressure, temperature, all these things are science.
Okay, so based on this, I need to see your exemplar, your annotation, whatever strategy you're going to use, the students need to use that same strategy. If you give them an option, you need to have focus, FKS on one side, and then the given, the question and solve, if you choose to go that route. You have to have a set annotation strategy that you're going to stick with, and you have a why behind it. So that's going to be your choice. So that's going to be where you quickly can actually provide feedback, okay? Because one thing that I observed, looking here, you have your annotations, you have your paper for the strategies, but you have given, but all the components not there. But when I go to the students, they use the FKS strategy. The annotations are there, but there's not an alignment. So you're going to choose which one. That's just an extra tidbit of information. So at this time, I know our time is running down.
Yeah.
So I would like for you to just kind of model exactly how you're going to monitor the quality of student work, and then just come back to you.
Okay, I have even that exemplar of this FK. I wrote that.
Okay, so that's what you need on top.
Yeah. Okay, I have that also. It's there. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So this is what you will have. Excellent, excellent. Now start monitoring quality of student work. Okay,
Okay.
let's go.
So now do I need to?
Yeah, you in practice mode.
Okay, guys. Now I've given you the worksheet, and you're going to do it, and you're going to solve. I'm going to come and check your work. Okay. Start doing now. Okay, good. Carry on, continue with the same method, you are right. Awesome. Very good, you have understood the concept. Good. Write the units. Write the units.
All right. So I would like for you to just kind of be thinking about how you're going to address those misconceptions. So when you went there and the student didn't have their units, that's very important. You said write the units, okay? So just make sure you just continue with the protocol using that verbiage. Okay, I'm looking at your focus. I'm looking at the key information, making sure you have the right formula down before we move on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right? Do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, so we're moving right along. Mr. Citra. All right, so I just want to kind of just stamp your next action steps, okay? So we can make sure we have a clear understanding. So when I come back, I would like to see the implementation of how you want to upgrade your monitoring of monitor the quality of student work, okay? So you want to have your exemplar in hand with your annotation strategy, with your paper partner strategy, whether you're going to use the math paper partner or your science paper partner strategy. You can still get the same results, just make sure you have consistency, okay? You want to announce what is that you're looking for. We call it announce your lapse. So you want to announce what you just did, what you're looking for, and then you go in to hold students accountable by walking around and seeing all students' work. Okay. Also, make sure as you're walking around, you already know the ideal answers or maybe even deviations from it. And then make sure you also provide feedback to your students, specific feedback. And we'll get into the coding system a little later on, but I just want to make sure you have that system in place. All right, so that leads us to the last thing. What is the purpose of having a system for monitoring student work?
I will have it's for my judgment. I can know how much they have done, how much they understood, and how was my teaching, whether they are really able to understand or not. So it's it's a judgment for my teaching. So if they are doing well, then I'll be happy that they understood my teaching and what is actually being taught in the class.
Okay. All right, thank you. So when I come in and I'm coaching, let's say the students are independent practice, not the DOL. Remember, the DOL exit ticket, there's very limited feedback in regards to helping students answer. You don't want to give them the answers, but you can also kind of tell them if they're in the right direction, okay? You know, as far as the correct formula, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, if we're doing just regular independent practice, 2 questions, where you're actually providing feedback, this would be a good practice, but you don't want to give them the answer if they're doing DOL, okay? Let's make sure we distinguish
Yes.
this. But during the time I'm coming in and the students are working independently, or they may be working as a group, collaboratively, or in pairs, okay? I am going to whisper in your ear. Okay, I don't want to make a huge, that's just a cute monitor student work. Or I also want to walk beside you and just say, what are the trends? So if I say, what are trends, okay, let me go monitor student work, right? If I feel that you're kind of stagnant in one space, I just want to give you a cue to let you know, just coaching in the moments where I'm not disrupting the class.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, how does that sound?
Yeah, it's good.
All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I will return next week, preferably on Monday. So if you don't have any questions,
No, thank you. You have explained me beautifully.
all right, thank you so
Awesome.
much. All right.